Okay, we're live. So just waiting a few people here. I'm going to keep the queue open so people can come in and we can do the live Q&A. I have my chat session open in the back. Of those coming in, just say hello on the right side of your chat window. Just let me know that you're here so we can start the Q&A session. So those coming in right now, just say hello on the right side to your chat, on the window to your right. We should be starting now. So I'm just waiting for everybody to participate, come in, and start our session. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. If you guys can hear me, just type in a yes on the chat window. Hi, Rod. How are you? Please let me know, guys. If you can hear me, just type in a yes on the chat window to your right. Okay, Keith, welcome to the live chat. Good to have you here. Good. You guys can hear me. That's good. That's great. Okay, well, welcome to the live Q&A. Just waiting for a few more people, hopefully, to come in, and we can start our session together and be able to answer some of your questions. I'm doing good, Rod. Thank you. Thank you for participating and joining in. Okay, great. Hey, Sam, how are you, man? It's been a while. Thanks for joining in. Mark, what's up? Hey, Tim, how's it going? Good. Everybody's in. More and more people are going to join us, so let's just wait it out a bit to get them in. Yeah, it's so much easier when you use Google Hangouts. For some reason, it integrates really quickly and efficiently. Their streaming softwares, they're great. There's a little bit of lag on those. I feel Google's platform is pretty sufficient. I can actually share my screen in the future to put things in perspective, so that'll help us when we go through some defined presentations and structures. So today's session is, just to go over some Q&A in reference to personal credit funding. We're going to talk about some of the business stuff as well, just to give you guys some headway there to kind of give you a perspective of what's happening. What are some of the things that you can actually do with your personal credit to participate on what I have going on to get you to your financial goals and your wealth goals. So let me start off by, thanking you guys to participate here in this live session Q&A, 20th of April here at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We start off by talking about, personal credit. The first thing I want to address, I guess, in a way is, you guys know that you have the CDR suite. A lot of people took advantage of that already. Essentially what's happening is I have a financing plan that I put together for 6 months at a minimum level of $247 a month. The logistics alone, trust me, guys, it's way more than that. But I'm doing it because I know that a lot of people wanted to get access to a defined structure to fix their credit. They have financial goals and they're trying to do it in an efficient manner. So I invite you guys to join in. So somebody's saying they can't hear me. Can you guys just confirm that you can hear me, please? Just type it up in the chat because I want to make sure that it's very loud and clear. Anybody have issues hearing me? Can you please message me and say, look, you guys can hear me? Because there's a gentleman who can't hear me so far, Mark, I think, and perhaps it's because of volume control. If you're watching it on your phone. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Okay, good. Perfect. All right, awesome. Excellent. All right, so Mark, I think the issue is maybe I have to type it up, just to bear with me, guys. Please check volume control on full. Cool. So going back to that, the CDR suite financing plan is really for those who intend on cleaning up their credit efficiently. You guys know that, we described the whole program in a video there, and you can take advantage of that. I'm going to stop the financing plan by the end of the month. It's because I want to give a fair opportunity to those who take advantage first. The UPCM course is going to go to $997. By the end of the month, I'm adding a lot of resources, including the CDR suite breakdown and how you can do it on your own, step by step. It's a lengthy process, but it's definitely worth it. And I'll teach you how to analyze your credit reports in a more enhanced version and way. So this will help you dramatically. improve your odds of success with the credit bureaus, and how to deal with the creditors as well. So that's the first step. Second step is funding. There's a video I did just yesterday. I think I gave it to you guys, and we talked about the different components of funding and how to be successful in attaining your goals to get the money you need. A lot of people start off at the credit card level, which is perfectly normal. The objective always is and will be to retain a solid relationships with the institutions, right? And that is basically, if you go in, a lot of people get these primary trade lines, like My Jewelers Club, Hutton Chase, New Coast Direct, some other new ones that are popping up. And objectively, what you want to do with those guys is also maintain a payment history and season them as well. You don't want to just get it and essentially, be done with it in one shot. You want to keep a small balance and maintain ongoing payment history. You're seasoning those accounts. And AUs, you can add AUs that give you a lot of utilization. They don't give you the history in terms of payment. You get the utilization and the extension of credit out of courtesy from the individual as AUs. Just be careful that that person's AU is not close to being maxed out in terms of balance. Because if there are, then it's not really helping you. You're paying for something or possibly asking for an extension that's very sensitive, and it's not really adjusting your credit profile. The only thing you get is possibly their history. But if it's a maxed out credit card and they're adding you as an AU, it's not really helping you in the utilization side, which is a huge portion of your credit reports and scoring model. So be careful with that. Then the next step always is the late payments. You have to fix that. You have to get that adjusted. If you want to aim for a lot of funding, underwriting perspective was that's something that's going to matter as well. So you have to be careful there. And then finally, the inquiries, right? A lot of people during the credit repair process were always being, attempted to go and apply for a car, or they want to pick up something really fast, and they rush into something. During the credit repair side, and we did talk about funding a little bit, but during the credit repair process, when we're enhancing your reports or we're working with you, even though it may be super tempting to go and apply for certain things, you want to avoid that at all costs, because credit repair, while we're doing it on the side and you start adding new things to our plate, it'll make it difficult for us to pursue it for two reasons. Number one, it disrupts the process we have systemized for you. If you come in and you start applying out of desperation, what ends up happening is you're going to start saying, well, it doesn't work anymore. The reason why, it's because when we freeze these type of accounts, and we're freezing these public record databases and third parties, any single level of inquiry, or let's say interruption during that process, can derail the whole thing, right? So imagine you had a $700,000 Ferrari California model, and you had a landing strip that you can use for drag racing, and you know for a fact that this car is amazing. And what you do now is, because you love this car, you want to test its limits, but you decide anyways to put a cone in the middle of that, and you narrow the lane down, and that cone is it's in the way, right? And you speed into it on purpose, and you say, I want to test if it can go over this cone, right? So that's the same thing. Is that cone is the inquiry on your credit report while we're working on your file. We want to complete the entire drag to test out its performance and its capability, so we can certify it to be ready to go and enter a championship or a race. That's what you're doing with your credit file. And if you're going to come in and start acquiring because you need a car or you need a credit or something out of desperation, you're going to derail the whole thing. The possibility of an accident with that cone in the middle, you're going 300 miles an hour, is highly likely. And the damage to repair that is going to be even more costly. So think about that and treat it that way. And, essentially, go attack your credit in that strategy. So if it's not about me also, right, guys? Like maybe you're fixing your credit with other people, and in the process of, you're probably looking at applying for some credit, and you can. But the problem with that is, don't do it while you're fixing the credit, right? And don't do it in let's say 2 months in, you still have certain items left on the reports. Don't do that. It's going to hurt you. So just be careful there. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Use that metaphor, okay? So that's the thing that I wanted to talk about. So Keith asked us here in the questions, what are data furnishers? Or who are these data furnishers? Okay, well, data furnishers, Keith, or those who are listening, are people who are reporting on your credit reports, right? They have the permission, they have an agreement with the credit bureaus to be able to pull and engage in activities where they can report accounts to your credit report. So it's any creditors, anybody who's offering a trade line or a loan in a data format. That data format that they have to report in accuracy is called the Metro 2 format. That's the software that they use. It's a format that complies with federal regulations. In 2015, in the state of New York, there was a settlement agreement with the credit bureaus, the CFPB, and the state attorney generals, which made it mandatory for these data furnishers or people reporting on your credit to comply with certain rules and regulations to make it as accurate as possible. And that's what, majority of them follow now. Even collection agencies in June of 2015, I believe, or 16, they had to adjust to make those changes and essentially follow the same rules and regulations. Data furnishers equals people putting information on your credit reports. That's in a very basic term. The Metro 2 format is what they use to comply with rules and regulations. And the eOscar is the platform they use to report and communicate directly using, those forms and regulations. So that's what I wanted to clarify. Questions you may have related to, let's say, the Section 609, which I want to clarify here. And I'm just giving you guys a breakdown on some of the things I wanted to share, and then we can get into live Q&A. The Section 609, a lot of people will have gone through some other individuals who are sharing their stuff. I'm not going to name any names. You may have tried it, and it may work, it may not work. I'm going to break down why it works. It works because a lot of people refer to that Section 609 as a way of disclosing information to a consumer. It doesn't have to do with signed documentation. A lot of people misread that. And even though it says you have to have clear documentation, you need to have evidence of reporting, you need to have a signature. Most of us, when we go online and we apply for credit cards and stuff like that, we know it's impossible to put signatures on them physically. So we just check a box that says, I accept and agree that the information that I've provided to you in this application is accurate and true. So that happens. There's also a part where, in the Section 609, you have the creditors who are supposed to, itemizedly report information on your three bureaus, are supposed to have documentation pertaining to who you are as an individual. Usually the way it works is a log, and that log is based on the IP you used to apply for those credit cards and accounts, as well as some of the information, like when they do a call to verify your identity, they actually record that, and they can use that information and basically create a transcript and save it in their databases up to 7 years in archive. So that's what happens. So Section 609's obligation to disclose to consumers is essentially, do they have information about you when you applied for the credit account? It has nothing to do with signed documentation. It has to do with the accuracy of the information when you check that box yourself when applying, and how they store that information. Typically speaking, it works also because they don't have that information, or they kind of mismatched it and they remove it. So you're attacking it in an angle that kind of says, well, yeah, it's going to work. They don't have signed documents. But the reality of it is, in the back office, they simply don't have the log of your IPs or the type of application that you've done, or your records. So it works in a way like that. The second reason it works also is because there was a news hearing, and not too long ago, a lot of people, especially experienced, said, look, we get about hundreds of thousands of inquiries a day, and only 15% of them are actually looked at. And the reason why, it's because most of them are automated through the eOscar. So when a person actually looks at it, out of the 15% chance, they'll pick up your report and they'll actually take a look at it, and they'll see the evidence of inaccuracies, especially with the Metro 2 formatting. So they'll say, well, you know what, it doesn't make any sense. This person's concerned about it and they're disputing it. But the reality of it is, they kind of look at it and they know what are the compliance rules and regulations. So they go based on their methodology to fix your credit. Nothing to do with signed documentation requirements, right? So those are the two things working for you. That's why a lot of people will have success in Section 609. Whereas on the other side, those who continuously get, hey, frivolous disputes, or we're not going to reinvestigate, the item's been certified to be accurate, or the creditor said it's accurate and they've certified it to us. You get these letters from Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, right? So time to time, you guys get that. So in those circumstances, what do you do next? Are you going to send back the same damn dispute and consider it a frivolous one? And what happens in their system is they have commentaries, notes, the customer disputing, consumer disputing, the data furnishers automated, responses that are logged into that system to say, well, this account's already been verified, so here it is. The whole automation process kicks in every time you send it again. Chances are it's going to come back verified again, and you're just simply wasting your time. And the credit bureaus during those instances are going to ask you, unless otherwise you have any other information that can help us look into this account, at this moment, we're not going to go ahead and reinvestigate. And a lot of people get frustrated. They say, well, that's not fair. And the reality is it's not fair. It's because you've allowed it to happen. You followed a protocol that you think is going to work for you, but you basically blocked your own ability to go ahead and get that reinvestigated. So your Section 609 template, essentially, yeah, it can work. It's one of the two extremes. It can work really well, or it can actually hurt you a long time if you're not doing it right, and you're going to hit a roadblock. You may have success with some items, and some ones are going to stay there, and it's going to make it a very impossible or more close to impossible task to remove those negatives. So what do you do in those circumstances, right? So that's the reality of the Section 609, guys. So if you're ever thinking, oh, they need signed documentation, let's clear that up. There's no such thing. There's many case laws that prove it. And you yourself are going to be, if you, let's assume during those instances, you actually decide to sue a credit bureau because they're hurting your ability to get a home. You want to get a car. Maybe you're losing a lot of financial opportunities, like getting a multifamily through financing, using your personal credit. They can give you some cash flow every month and build your wealth. So you decide, hey, there's a lot of financial damages on my report, and I want to go ahead and sue them. So let's say you guys go sue them, and now you're stuck in a court hearing, and the judge asks you, okay, you're requesting signed documentation with them. The judge is going to ask you, have you ever submitted a signed documentation with them? No. Okay. The judge is going to say, well, let's look at the creditors. Does the creditors deploy any type of strategies to require signed documentation? Yes, we do, Your Honor. When they come in branch to apply. Okay, they come into the branch. Okay. Then they're going to pull the records during those applications. And if they see like, okay, there was a signed documentation, in most cases, they'll be protected and they'll have it. But on the other side is, what are some of the ways that you collect information on an individual when they're applying for a credit account? It's a standard. Well, Your Honor, we collect information through online. We check the IP, we log it, and then there's a checkbox that we certify its accuracy. And at times, Your Honor, we have to call the customer to ensure their privacy, to verify their identity. Okay, that's excellent. Do you have the log of that information? Yes, great. It says your IP is this. You're with Verizon Internet Service at this address. Is that your home? Yes, Your Honor, it is. Okay. Would it be a possibility that somebody actually came into your computer, or your dog or cat, and applied it on your behalf? No, Your Honor, I'm the only one living there. Okay, great. Let's talk to your internet company. Let's see if we can get the trace of that log, lead back to your service provider to see if it's that exact residence at this exact time. Yes, Your Honor, that's not a problem. So when they look at that evidence, that is sufficient enough to declare that you are the account holder. Then they'll look at the transaction records of that credit card if you used it and you're in default and you're charged off. They're going to ask all the type of information that's necessary to go back in. The credit bureaus have billions of dollars of resources. They can bury you in paperwork and waste a lot of your time. You're never going to come out of court. And then they'll have evidence stacked and stacked against you. And now you're going to go to jail for perjury because you just lied saying you don't own that account when in fact you do. And there's clear evidence and secured monitoring and live feeds of you going into a gas station using that same credit card to fill up the car gas. So be very careful when you're using Section 609 disputes, guys. I just broke down the exact worst case hell scenario for you. And I'm going to give you the reality of the scenario. So if you go to that lawsuit, or if they decide to sue you, especially Amex, they're very aggressive. They're going to actually sue you. So you have to be careful with that, okay? Now, let's go back to the reality of how to stop that automated dispute from happening so that you can actually go out there and clean your credit. First steps are first. Did you look at the personal identifiers? I always go back to that. A lot of people say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Simple. Personal identifiers are the links to the accounts affiliated in your credit report. If you can challenge that, the question then becomes, how is this account affiliated? If it is affiliated with a name that's been removed with evidence, here it is, Experian, you remove my name, and can you demonstrate to me this account's relationship? Whose name does it belong to? The identification of that name. How did you sort this information? It becomes increasingly difficult to dispute something from their side to protect their stance when they actually themselves are the ones who remove the personal name. That's the first thing. Second thing you want to do is that item anchoring I said, right? As you're going to question all the negatives that are there, anchor it to the personal identifiers that's been removed and question every single item the proper way. The third step is you got to read your report as they are. If they're clearly, evidently inaccurate, and you can see that, missed payments, your payment grid, you look at Experian, you look at TransUnion, you look at Equifax, and you see like mismatches, 30-day lates on one, all greens on the other. All of a sudden, there's spaces in between in 30s and 90s and 120s, and all of a sudden it's okay again. There's inconsistency in the payment grid. When it comes to reporting your data from a data furnisher's perspective, they have to make sure that it's certified and compliant to be accurate. In the AUD form, which is the Universal Data Form, that's a form that the credit bureaus, when they send their ACDV, which is the disputed verification form, the data furnishers submit the AUD. In that, in the bottom, like you applied for credit card, certifying your information to be accurate, and that's basically considered under oath. The creditors do the same thing when they report back an investigation's results. So when they check that AUD box of certified compliance accuracy, they can actually shoot themselves in the foot if the reporting afterwards is still inaccurate and you see it in your evidence on the credit reports, and you can simply read it out and kind of identify here are the inconsistencies. I actually teach that in the UPCM, guys, in a much more detail. I'm not going to go ahead and give everything here, but you can actually see now the inconsistencies and then go based on that. There are certain questions you can ask, which you can learn further, right? So that's the third way. And then basically ask them to reinvestigate in that matter. I would go as far as really getting on the phone and questioning every single way that the items are reported and saying, well, how is this possible? How is this certified accurate? All right. Can you demonstrate to me how in the conditions of compliance, an account is supposed to swap when it's a charge-off account, a collection account? What are some of the rules and regulations after the settlement agreement in 2015 of how a collection agency should report data on a consumer's file? These are the type of things that you need to be aware of. I'm speaking for a credit reporting enhancement agency, such as myself and my company. But on a consumer level, you kind of understand like there are certain levels of urgencies that you may be stuck with, that your credit reports are basically, no, all the time you're disputing using Section 609s or whatever old templates you're using are coming back verified as accurate, and we're not going to reinvestigate, et cetera, et cetera. Then it's up to you to go ahead and fix that issue by challenging them based on what I just described to you. Okay, so Rod, I hope that, if experience doing that to you, personal identifiers, item anchoring, questioning the items on a credit report perspective, calling them up, questioning them. You're not asking to resolve it. You're just questioning them and letting them answer that. So put them in a position to be able to answer that question for you. So that's the way you would address it. If you want to get a lot more aggressive and you want to learn a little bit more of a strategy there, there's a link below. Sign up for the UPCM. Well, it's for $497 still. Like I said, I'm gonna raise the price up to $997 after the month. It's just I want to make it fair for everybody who's taking advantage. And in that material, in the course itself, you're going to learn what I just described to you, but in a more enhanced level. You can actually, I'm going to break down the credit reports, literally go step by step, item by item, and give you a series of questions you can ask the creditors, specifically the creditors. The credit bureaus are simply printing out whatever the creditor's giving them. We're disputing it with the bureaus, and they don't have the right to do that, et cetera, et cetera. But if the creditors, like I said, the data furnishers certify their accuracy, the bureaus have to take it based on their word, right? So the real victim is yourself and the bureaus. The bureaus also, though, they have obligation to investigate because of the amount of inquiries coming in on a daily basis. It makes it increasingly difficult. But your job is to make it almost undisputable when you actually submit it, the information that you provide and the series of evidences that you provide, to make it impossible for the creditor to come back by saying it's automated or it's certified to be accurate. It's going to be impossible. So make it difficult for them. You'll have a greater success that way. But to do that, you need to learn the system the proper way. You need to go on a basic level, literally break it down, the entire report, understand the type of right questions you need to ask, and then create letters that are very relevant to those situations. Once you do that, you'll have a lot more success than just the generic no or automated dispute verifications. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, if you are a charger account reporting balances, let's go to the Q&A, guys. I just wanted to give you a breakdown of the credit reporting structures and some of the letters and why they may or may not be working for you. So a question I have, we're going to start the live Q&A, guys. So put all your questions in there, and I'm going to go ahead and address them, accordingly. First question is by Keith. If you are a charger account reporting the balance, okay. So Keith, I don't get that. Can you specify that? Are you mean like if you have a charged off account? Is that what you're referring to? Can you please specify? Just waiting for you guys to put up your questions here. Keith, if you're typing, no problem. But if you have a charged off account, charged off accounts, guys, usually they're zeroed out, right? They don't have any owing balances on them. It's a loss to the creditor. If I hope I'm answering your question, Keith. But when it's charged off, it's basically a debt that no longer exists in the balance sheet of the creditor. It's a loss. It's a tax deduction for them, yes, if they decide to take it that way, depending on if it's a large enough debt, and then they maybe actually use that as a deduction. But what ends up happening is everything is supposed to be zeroed out in accordance to the regulations on a charged off account. And that's pretty much it. And that's why collection agencies, right? They pick up debt that no longer exists. They go ahead and they buy these debts, and they have the ability to get an assignment agreement from the creditor, the original one, or they basically get a debt buying agreement on a more aggressive level, which they go out and then they buy a lot of debt. And they use that information to pursue you and put up items on your credit report because they feel like that's enough for us to pursue this customer. They owe them, and let's try to make the most of it. They usually buy that debt for 5, 10, 15 cents on the dollar, sometimes even less, depending on the bulk buying of that debt. Either way, it's money for the creditor. Instead of getting zero, they get some money, right? So that's one of those ways that collection agencies go ahead and live pursue debt. Sometimes it's not even charged off yet, and they get assigned to salvage the scenario where it's not zeroed out for them. They don't want to declare it as a loss. They want to collect on whatever is remaining. And then from that perspective, it hurts your ability to borrow because it gets reported to your credit reports. So that's one of those things you want to keep in mind when it comes to charge-offs. Any other questions, please go ahead and ask. I'm going to try to make it as much as, an hour. Good. So Keith, I'm glad. I hope the answer was satisfactory, that you found some clarity there. Okay, guys, any other questions, please go ahead and ask. I'm going to read it out to help you guys get some clarity there. Okay, I have a gentleman under the name of Darren Maple. He asked, what's the best method to dispute a government overpayment, zero balance? Well, first and foremost, what exactly is it? Is it a child support? Is it a government federal loan? It's really like you have to specify what. Well, let's go back to the basics, Darren. Let's look at how it's reporting in your credit report. Are there any inconsistent information? Do they have a payment history? Do they have terms? Simple questions like that. Just by looking at your credit report, you'd be able to answer that. And then basically just snapshot that, circle out whatever information is missing, and question it based on the authority who's reporting, which you want to kind of get. And you want to ask them, you got to send multiple letters, one to the credit bureaus themselves and say, look, whoever aggregated this data for you or collected this information to report it to you about myself is actually doing it in a very inaccurate way. And I'm questioning their ability to be accurate, which is, against the rules and regulations of credit reporting. Second thing is send it to the agency or whoever's reporting that data and question that item by item or, information by information. So that's the way to do it. If it's an overpayment, it's not really hurting you, but at the end of the day, it is a government record and probably you want to get it out of there. Most probably it's going to be LexisNexis, Check Systems, ID Analytics, LIS, those type of agencies. There are third-party software companies now that are using a conglomerate of data available to you or about you and using that information to go through a third-party software that actually does Metro 2 reporting through eOscar, and they get agreements from those agencies. So you have to figure out exactly where they collected that data. First, question the source, get that source, then communicate with the source and question the way they're reporting inaccurately, item by item. So, okay, so it was a bill. So yeah, so you got to check. Maybe it's the telecommunications guys, right? The department that actually handles the consumer affairs for telecommunications. But get the source of the information, Daryl, first. Okay, then question it based on whatever information is missing. Challenge it. Do the item anchoring, do the personal identifier, do the whole thing. You go to the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, after you've taken a few measures already. That's the step to do it. So I hope that clarifies. First, source of information, then challenging it based on the way it's reporting. Third, CFPB complaint. Well, no, before that, third is the item anchoring, the personal identifiers, questioning them how they collected the data, suppressing the information and freezing them, and then finally the CFPB if there's no response or success. So that's the way you go about it. So I hope that clarifies for you. Next, we have Kevin Saunders, who's asking a pretty particular question. If we wanted to become a credit repair specialist, how do we partner with you, tap into your knowledge and resources while being the front for the credit repair client? How would the money work? Okay. Well, first and foremost, I don't like to, and I'm going to be straightforward with you guys as always. I don't like to be the back office specialist. The reason why it's because it puts you in the line of fire. I'm trying to protect you as well. If you want to do credit repair with me, you want to partner with me, you want to gain insights on how to do the things the proper way, we can do a session. It's usually a 2-day session where I teach you everything I know so that you can go out there and do your own business. You're going to have to put in your unique tastes, your skills. You have to kind of figure out what you're good at, position yourself in that marketplace. First, start off by building local reputation and then basically build it up to where you can actually excel in that area. My objective is very simple. If you want to learn, I don't mind creating competition. It's not for me to hold you back from actually accessing this knowledge. It's already there. It's just that I have a defined strategy to do it. It's very unique. And I'm going to transfer that knowledge to you. But for me to transfer that, there's a cost to it. So, we can discuss that, but it's not cheap. You're talking, over a dozen years of experience, success in the highest level, and a lot of, tremendous amount of systemizing there. But you have to have the commitment to say, if you want to get into business instead of, partnering with it, you transfer the entire knowledge base. And that's how I would do it. So this way you control your outcomes, your reputation, your customer base, and everything you need to do, and not have to rely on me individually. If something goes wrong and I'm not there tomorrow, God forbid, you're stuck. And we don't want you to be stuck, right? So we want to give you everything you need to do to be successful, right? So one time off, and if you need support in the future, we can create an agreement where, you can subscribe to my specialty knowledge, and then I'll be there for you to answer some of the questions, review some of the items that you're sending up for your customers. But that's the way I would do it. So that's the way it would work, Kevin. And the money breakdown will, once you have the knowledge base, you charge your own fees. You charge your own structure. There's a lot of different things when it comes to credit repair. If you want to start a business or you want to be a specialist, different states have their own different regulations and rules. But the way I do it is very different. It's unique. It kind of looks over and shadows those regulations and rules and creates a successful outcome for you, where you'll be able to use credit cards, financing, things like that to help your customer a little bit further, protect them, provide some security. We're going to discuss insurance, some of the things that you'll need to insure yourself in this business, infrastructure, web design, all that good stuff, and pursue it in that level. It's not a business where you come in and you do just the disputes and letters, and anybody can do that. And that's why it's not a sustainable thing when people do that, because now they're competing against everybody else in the world. When you do it in a format that's structured, well done, developed, and planned properly, you will have a much more success ratio in that, because it's easier to respect what you have going, and your customers will kind of realize that you bring a lot more value to the table when you do it that way. So if you want to learn, we can do a knowledge transfer session. It's a 2-day thing. You can either fly in here or I can go out there, but it's definitely not cheap. I don't want to discuss the price over the video here, because that's a sensitive thing there, because it can change, it can vary, depends on some of the complexities that I have to teach. I have to assess your personal level of knowledge. But contact me if you want to learn more. Talk at bestcreditresources.com. In the subject line, just say, want to learn credit repair for business or something like that. And then I'll reach out to you, Kevin, if you're interested. And again, if you're serious about this and you want to do it, you get started sooner than later. That's how it works. You don't wait it out. Today it could be one price. Tomorrow I can double it. It's as simple as that. The demand, I have a lot more things I'm doing out of respect for my other partners and the other businesses that I have to schedule my time accordingly. And anybody who's serious enough will understand the value in doing this. So let me know. Reach out to me. Talk at bestcreditresources.com, and let's talk about that. Okay, so that's. I hope that answers your question, Kevin. I hope that provides some level of information on how to do it the proper way. So James Vigil, okay, that's Mark. I received 4 reports on my Identity IQ, and it says to contact each. Yeah, so Mark, don't worry about that. It's normal. Identity IQ doesn't really control the outcome. The credit bureaus do, so you're going to get letters from the bureaus. Just be patient there, and that's how it'll work. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, Kevin, I hope I answered your question there, man, about the credit repair, being a specialist and doing the business. Good. I'm glad it did. Okay. So I'm going to stay up for a few more minutes. If you guys have any other additional questions that you'd like to ask me, I'd like to address them ASAP. All these video sessions, I like to provide some clarity there, guys. So go ahead and do that. More questions, please pop it up, and then we'll end our session in a few minutes. So I'm waiting for you guys. Well, while I'm waiting, I'll share some insights. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the business side. So lately, what's happening is I'm structuring some portfolio of businesses, and what it is essentially I come across a lot of businesses where I help acquire them and restructure their debts and make them debt free. And of those businesses, what we do is we resell them. We add value to them. They're debt free. We resell them. Typical price point of those businesses are between 100 to 400,000, sometimes $500,000. If your credit is right, what I can do is, there's some cash requirements, but you probably get it for 100% financing. And we have, if depending on how much we can attain for you, the balance, we have a German financing company. We can finance it out for 5 years at 2.75%, 2.75%. So it's really cool. A lot of people are using their credit now to get into the acquisition side of businesses. And because they're debt free, and usually when you come in, we're actually discounting the value of the business by 25% up to. So let's say, a 400K business, we might be selling it for 300,000 or 325 or something. So it's actually quite good. So you start making money right off the get go. These are established businesses. They have a customer base. Most of the cash requirement is usually half of what we sell it for, and the rest is financed out by us through our German financing company. And we have about like 40 to 50 businesses a month that we'll be spinning out from our portfolio just to help the people acquire, get into business, and basically start fresh and build their wealth that way. And if you guys want us to be participant with you while you acquire those businesses to help you add value, to give you some resources, and eventually grow that business over time, we're also available for that through a partnership structure, definitely, right? But that's what's happening, guys. So if you fix your credit and you're actually doing really well and you want to actually position yourself to go into business, that's some of the ways that you can do it. Now, of course, not everything's going to be 100% financing. You absolutely need to see what are some of the cash requirements, etc. But we can discuss that when you're ready. So I hope I give you some insights on what's happening. I'm going to be sharing some of those videos with you about some of the businesses we have. For instance, we got one right now. That's 8 subway chain of 8 subways, right? Profitable. They make about 300K a year. The total value of that subway, the 8 of them that we have in our umbrella here, is about 2.4 million. Usually subways, it takes a little bit of time, get in, you have cash requirements, and that doesn't even guarantee you to the customer base yet, right? But just the entry price is about 1.4 million just to start, like, let's say the value that we have. We're unloading our $2.4 million 8 subway chain portfolio for about 950,000. They're debt free, they're profitable already. The cash requirement is about 400K. And the balance is going to be financed out by our loan financing company, the German one. So just to show you that there's a lot of opportunity in the marketplace. And that's just one of the many businesses that we're going to come across in that size and magnitude. And you might be asking yourself, well, why are you giving it off at that price? Well, it's simple. We're actually interested in other sectors. We still keep our lean in the business for a loan that we offer through our German financing company. But at the end of the day, we're focused in biomedical technology, infrastructure of that nature, and we're just shifting our focus from one place to another. And for us, like we basically started it from the ground up. So we know like what are some of the requirements to enhance that. We also have an area manager. So if you want to be an absentee owner there and you want to get your business managed, we can help somebody come in at a minority stakeholder and manage your subways for you. So you can just basically be an absentee owner, but you still want to keep an eye on that, right? So those are some of the things that just a brief scenario and example of what I get going for you. So there's a lot of value there, right? Especially if you're fixing your credit and certain things you want to do to get into the business world at a much more accelerated pace to own some assets there. So yeah, thank you, Mark. Mark says I do amazing work. Just want to say thanks. No problem, man. I'm here for you guys to answer some of the questions you may have. Hey, Lita, how are you? I hope you're well. I got your email, by the way. I'm gonna write back. I just hadn't had time, but I appreciate you writing back, and we'll definitely communicate there. Okay. So, do you guys have any other questions? I'm gonna try to wrap it up here. As you can see, I'm actually dog sitting here. He's sleeping, so we got to take him for a little walk. So hopefully, we'll wrap this up quickly and efficiently here. So do you guys have any other questions? Please comment. No problem, Tim. No problem. Okay, guys, I'll wait for a few more. Hopefully answer some of your questions before I fix it. Okay. Any more questions? Looks like we're about to wrap up, guys. You can ask some questions. Personal credit, business, anything related to your personal finances, funding. I'm open for a few more minutes before we wrap it up, or hopefully this will be the end. Okay. So far, so good. So far, so good. Okay. Well, guys, I appreciate you showing up. Share this video with those that you feel would benefit from the knowledge share session here today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Write a comment below. If some of the things that I haven't answered on this video, put it on the description in the bottom of those who are listening into this replay. Just ask the questions down there. And I hope to see you guys next time. Hopefully we'll do this in another Saturday next week. If not, then I'll schedule accordingly. But I plan on doing this on a regular basis, hopefully to clarify some of the things you guys might have in terms of questions. I got a text message saying that people are not able to ask me the questions on YouTube or not sending me messages. So feel free to leave it in the comment section. And then we'll go ahead and sort that out for you guys once we replay this message. Okay. That's said and done, guys. I'll lead after your guide and mentor once again. I hope all is well with you guys. Enjoy the weekend. I hope you guys will have a wonderful Easter or had a wonderful Easter. And I'll see you guys next time. Okay, well, one more question before we end up. Is there a free way to monitor your credit? Well, unfortunately, no, there isn't. Most of the monitoring services, I mean, you're going to have your Credit Karma and stuff like that. I wouldn't depend on that. But there's no really free way of monitoring. Identity IQ I found was the most helpful one for me. It's the most systematic way to look at it and gives you alerts real time, etc. So I think that's the best. But there isn't really a free one. You can actually get a discounted price there and go off of that. So finally, just to give you guys a heads up, it'll be usually at 1 o'clock every Saturday in terms of these sessions on the Eastern Seaboard. If you're on the Pacific side, it'll be 10 a.m. in the morning. Once again, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to head off today. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I'll lead you after once again, your guide and mentor. Bye for now.